All right. Hey, how's it going? Long time no see. It's been a couple years since I made a video like this, and honestly, I think that's just because I haven't really had anything I wanted to say, at least in a video format like this. But we're gonna change that today because I have a lot to say. I don't know if you remember, but I made a video a couple years ago, basically on the 10 different cities that I had been to in South America and ranking them, and that's what you can see here. This is what I ranked a couple years ago, and I have spent a lot more time in Latin America since then. Basically, the better part of the last 2 years, living in Argentina and Brazil in 2024, and then mostly in Costa Rica in 2025. And yeah, I have a lot more to say. I wanted to make this video for a couple different reasons. First of all, I'm going to be moving to Taiwan in a few days, and I wanted to get all my thoughts about Latin America out there in like kind of one compiled video, because I think it's going to be a couple years until I go there again. And yeah, so this is kind of a personal goodbye for me for the time being. And also, just for anyone who's interested in going to Latin America, I figured I would put all my thoughts in a video, so that, if you, especially if you know me and you feel like we're similar in our tastes or our values, you can be pretty confident that you'll feel a similar way about these cities as well. So this can kind of be a good recommender for you, if you're interested in going to Latin America. I would definitely recommend if you haven't, because it is a beautiful part of the world and it holds a special place in my heart. And I know I'm gonna be back there eventually. But yeah. So last time here, I did a list of 10 cities because I still hadn't traveled to that much. But today we're gonna be doing 30. So it's a lot more. It's gonna be a pretty comprehensive list. The only cities, kind of major cities in Latin America that are not gonna be on here are like, there's not too many from the Caribbean other than Havana, and Caracas is not on the list. I would love to go to Venezuela, but it's just not the right climate right now there for that. And what else? What else? La Paz is not on this list either. So if you're looking for info on those, it's not going to be here. But pretty much any other like major city in Latin America or notable city in Latin America is going to be here. So without further ado, I'm going to start by making any changes that I would to the cities that I already have on here from the previous list that I made, and then we're going to start adding new cities. So, okay, Buenos Aires is still number one. It's we'll get into this later as we add more cities onto this list, but these are still the top two for sure. I'm actually going to switch Quito down here, still in the same tier, but I've revisited Rio since making this video, or since making the last video, and Rio's just magical. Quito is a like super solid city, and I still really like it. And so, I mean, obviously it's an A tier, but Rio just has this je ne sais quoi that is, it's hard to quantify. And so I definitely put Rio ahead of Quito. And other change, I'm gonna bring Cali down here. And that's not because I think necessarily any more highly of Cartagena or Panama City. It's more so that after revisiting Cali, I don't know why you would choose Cali, really. I guess if you really like salsa, that might be a reason to choose Cali. But other than that, it's kind of sketchy. There's not much to do. It's really hot, and it's in the middle of the country, so like you don't even have the beach to cool off, right? With Cartagena and Panama City, at least you have the beach, right? And I think for me now, like the beach makes up for a lot. It's just a good time. It's just a good way to cool off. There's a lot of activities that surround the beach. So even if I don't like a city per se, with these two, at least you have the beach. So that's why I would put Cali at the bottom of all of these cities, at least. And yeah, if you're wondering, some of these flags behind on the icons are kind of weird. I got AI to make these icons, so some of them are gonna be weird. But anyways, I also found it hilarious, like the little emojis that it used for each city. So yeah. Anyways, okay. So those are all the changes that I would make to the previous list. So we're gonna actually. I thought it would be fun to start from the most north in Latin America and kind of move our way down. So we're gonna try that. Maybe sometimes I will kind of deviate from that pattern for I don't know artistic reasons or to tell the story better. But we're gonna try to do that for the most part from the north down. So let's start with Mexico City. Mexico City's not here. It is up here. Mexico City is awesome. I arrived to Mexico City from I think it was Colombia, and I was just very like first of all the like I was taken aback by how big it was. Like the city goes on forever, and then also you could just note differences in Mexico City compared to the rest of Latin America. Like it's not as loud as a city in like Colombia would be, especially that of that size. And it just has so much distinct culture. I think two big things in Mexico City are the culture, and then also that it just like works as a city. Let's talk about how it works first. So, like the trains, for example, the infrastructure, yeah, public transit, it works very well, right? It's very cheap. It works very well. Also, the city is quite safe, to be honest. It felt like just as safe as Buenos Aires. And I do consider Buenos Aires to be pretty safe overall as well. And then you have the fact that you're in Mexico. And Mexico's culture is so deep and diverse that it's just, you could live your whole life in Mexico and not even scratch the surface of the culture there. And that's what makes Mexico City amazing. It's just an endless experience of Mexican culture. Like you can walk out on the street in the morning and turn right, and you have someone selling churros and coffee right in the morning, or fresh bread, and you could just buy it on the corner for like $1. And it's like, man, like this is amazing. Like I always want someone on the corner selling churros and coffee. Like, yeah, and then you can just walk around the city and discover random cool events that are happening. I stumbled upon this like weed festival that was happening, and they said they had like 3 different locations and they have it every week, which was crazy. But yeah, just cool little events and stuff like that are always happening. I stumbled upon a bachata class too in a park, and there's not a lot of cities like that. I think Buenos Aires is like that as well. But yeah, there's not a lot of cities like that where you could literally just walk around and stumble upon cool stuff almost every block. So because of that, Mexico City, A plus for sure. I'm putting it on the bottom of A plus because I didn't spend too much time there. I was only there for about a week. And Medellin and Buenos Aires, just I think still for me are a little bit more fun. One thing I didn't like about Mexico City is the amount of Americans there, honestly. And it's a little bit more Americanized in like its, I guess, in the disposition of the people. Like it's a little bit more business oriented and stuff like that, and calm. Whereas places like Buenos Aires and Medellin are just like loud and bombastic, and I usually lean more towards that. But Mexico City is awesome. Some of the best food I've ever had as well. I thought I knew Mexican food before going to Mexico City, but I apparently didn't because I tried a bunch of things there. Elote, what is it, volcanes or something like that? Gringas, things that I had never heard of before, and they were incredible. So, yeah, I definitely want to go back to Mexico and Mexico City because I think I just honestly only scratched the surface with my like I guess month or 3 weeks that I was there last year. So yeah, but Mexico City definitely elite stuff. Okay, what's next? I guess we're sticking in Mexico, and we're going with, where are we? Cancun. I was in Cancun for a couple days for I guess 4 days. Um, on my way back from Latin America, going back to Canada last year, and yeah, I just completely disagree with what Cancun is. I don't even know if I should put it on this list, um, because it's completely different than all these other cities, right? Like it's just a place that people go to be at a hotel and be at a beach, which I mean is fine. Like if you want to do a vacation like that, that's okay. It feels like there though that the people going there are just going to like take advantage, and a lot of them seem like they're just going so they can like trash another country instead of trashing their own. um and it's super expensive. I don't know, I booked a couple days there because it was cheaper to do a layover through there, and I thought that I would enjoy a couple days just like chilling at the beach. But honestly, even the beaches, like they're they're all sectioned off and like they feel very fake. Um, so I didn't even think it had the best beaches really. Um, so yeah. Anyways, I'm not gonna spend too much time on Cancun, but I just I fundamentally disagree with what Cancun represents, and so Cancun is at the very bottom for me. I mean, if you're looking for a beach holiday or something like that, maybe it's a decent option. It seems like it's pretty expensive, um, even for that. But yeah, I don't know. It might be decent. For me, it's not my thing at all. Okay, so next after Mexico, under Mexico, we got Guatemala City. Guatemala City's not here. It is there. So, I guess I was expecting a little bit more from Guatemala City. My mom had spent some time there when she was younger, and she enjoyed it. But there's just not much to do in Guatemala City. I feel like for cities in this tier right here, I could at least give you a reason for why you would go there, and you could have a good time. Like Valparaiso has like a nice coastline and some cool towns. Santiago, you got the Andes right there. You got a coast an hour away. You could drive an hour north and you could be in the desert or a couple hours. Um, and there's just more to do in the city itself. Whereas these cities, it's like, why? Why would you choose this over another place? Um, and I feel that way about Guatemala City. Like there's just there's just nothing to do. Even if you're there for a couple days, I guess you could go to there's like a big market in in the middle of the city that has like a few floors, which is cool. But most cities have that, so I can't really give you a reason to go to Guatemala City. Um, Despite that, I spent like a week there, and I actually had a pretty good time. I went to a hostel, and I met some like really cool people, and we were just hanging out on the rooftop of the hostel and just like drinking and having good food and stuff. So like I actually had a good time in Guatemala City, but it really didn't have to do with the city itself per se. So it's definitely down here. Um, Sticking in Guatemala, we got, where is it? Antigua. Antigua is gonna be right there. Yeah. So what whiplash, right? You got Guatemala City down here and Antigua up here. Also, I don't know why it has like a Costa Rican flag in the background, but I digress. Antigua is really much better than Guatemala City, and I think everyone knows it. Like no one really goes to spend time in Guatemala City. Everyone goes to Antigua or Lecatitlan, which is also really beautiful. But Antigua is beautiful. If honestly, out of anywhere in this list, if you ask me like, oh hey, like where would you want to just spend a couple months, um, just like just like hanging out and doing your own thing, I would probably choose Antigua because Antigua, compared to these other cities, you could like meet meet people and have a friend group and find stuff to do instantly because it's not that big, right? So Antigua's situated in kind of like this valley with volcanoes surrounding it. You have volcanoes erupting like every 10 minutes in the distance, and so you get these big clouds of smoke in the daytime, and then you can actually see lava in the nighttime. It's great weather. It's like mild all the time. It rains sometimes, but yeah, like beautiful architecture in the city. You have cobblestone streets, and then you have like the beautiful old colonial buildings. And there's actually a lot of stuff to do considering the size. Like it's not a big place at all. But there's tons of events. There's dance classes. There's live music events. There's a lot of cool bars and stuff like that. And so like it's just super easy to meet people. I would love to just like if I was gonna spend a couple months there, I would just buy like a used bicycle and just like bike around everywhere. It's super walkable and bikeable, and there's just tons of hikes and stuff nearby. Like it's a really beautiful place. You'd get sold by like you'd get sold to the idea of Antigua if you just looked at a picture of it. You'd be like, okay, yeah, that's a place I want to go to. And it's that good. Yeah, I wanted to rank Guatemala City higher because I know that everyone just goes straight to Antigua when they go to Guatemala. But to be honest, I don't blame you at all if you go straight to Antigua because, yeah, there's not much to do in Guatemala City, and Antigua is awesome. So, yeah, what do we have next? I'm just checking where I put this guy. Okay, yeah. San Jose. So, we're skipping a lot of Central America. I haven't been there, unfortunately. So I'll have to add that to the list later. And now we got San Jose, which, oh, I guess I got to do this. Cancun. San Jose. Okay. We got to put all of these. Wait. Okay. I'll put San Jose here. It's San Jose. I might be a little bit harsh on San Jose because I think I know San Jose, like the ins and outs of it, more than any other city in the world, personally. I just spent the last like 7 months there. And I was doing a job where, like, I literally my job was to bus around the city the whole day and go to like different local projects and stuff and different like neighborhoods around. So I might be a little bit harsh on San Jose because I know all the nooks and crannies of the city. Um, but it's hard to recommend San Jose to someone. Um, there's not much to do. I think if you're comparing it to Guatemala City, there is more to do than Guatemala City. You got areas in the city like you got Barrio Escalante, which is a neighborhood that has like some nice restaurants and stuff, and it's pretty lively at night. And then you have like La Cali, which is this just degenerate street that has a bunch of like clubs and stuff, and it's always under construction, and so you just have like these big excavation machines and stuff like that in dirt, and with people like clubbing around it. And there's some good clubs there. I've had great times, and around San Jose you have a lot of like nice parks and hikes and stuff like that. And so I like I mean there are things to do, I guess, but I just don't know why you'd choose it over another city like above. Um, yeah. Um, it's also really expensive as well in the context of Latin America. So your dollar doesn't really go that far. Like if you go out to eat, it's gonna be, $12 to $15 for a plate. And so it's also also, like talking about the food is not that good. I learned to honestly really have a soft spot for some dishes there. Like for example, I love Costa Rican breakfast. Like you get like the gallo pinto with huevos rancheros, like it's like beans and rice with like a fried egg in like a spicy sauce and like plantain on the side, and they got this like sour cream called natilla, and that shit slaps. I could honestly eat that every day. But I think overall the food is kind of underwhelming. Um, and so it's just, I mean, again, like it has things in the city, but I can't think of a reason where I would recommend, like when I would recommend San Jose to someone over any of these cities, really. Like it's, I guess it's known for being a safer country than most in Latin America. And yeah, I guess it's fairly safe, but at the same time, I've also been to sketchy neighborhoods in San Jose, and I think that most of these cities are quite safe. So, um, like, and I want to say most of the cities are safe. Sorry, someone's messaging me. Okay. Okay, better. Um, I don't want to. I don't want to like discredit or like downplay the danger of like Latin America overall, because I think you do have to be careful. But um, I think most of these places, like as long as you're, have a good head on your shoulders, and you don't do anything stupid, like you're gonna be fine, right? And so yeah, I just again I can't think of a reason where I would recommend San Jose over any of these cities above. Okay, so before we head, oh, actually, we got one more for Costa Rica, and this is Tamarindo. Tamarindo. Yeah. So, I mean, if you think of Costa Rica, what do you think of? You think of jungle, you think of beaches, you don't think of San Jose, right? And nobody goes to San Jose. So, I figured I would kind of lump a few different places in Costa Rica in here with Tamarindo. So, when I'm talking about Tamarindo, I'm going to be also referring to just like San Jose coasts overall. Like you got the Guanacaste region in the Pacific, and then you have like Puerto Viejo and Limon in the Caribbean, and I think they're both fantastic. Um, I really enjoy them, and I think that like this is where Costa Rica shines really, um, because while they're not my favorite, like for me personally, I think I'd rather go to Rio for a beach town, or even probably Santa Marta. But I could totally see why someone would want to choose Tamarindo, for example, right? Like it's it's a really cute little beach town. Um, like it has a good vibe. It's easy to meet people there, especially because there's a lot of like foreigners and expats. Um, the beaches are beautiful. Yes, it's a little bit expensive. Like prices are in US dollars and stuff like that. And also, again, because you're in Costa Rica, you don't get like the best food. But I still think that you get like pretty decent food. And yeah, like there's events at these beach towns. There are really nice beaches. It's cute, safe. Like I could totally see why someone would want to stay in somewhere like that. So for that, Tamarindo and other beach towns like Puerto Viejo, I would definitely put in B tier. Yeah. All right. I guess we're moving on to South America. Before we move on to South America, let's do a quick stop in the Caribbean and talk about Havana. It sucks because I actually really like Havana, and I want to clarify this. Like, as I add more things into this C tier list, I still really like these places that are C tier, like especially on the top of C tier. Um, Yeah, I still really enjoy them, and for Havana, like it holds a pretty special place in my heart. Um, I think Havana is just brimming with culture. I had a great like food experience when I was there. I was there for a few weeks at the beginning of last year. I think the beaches are beautiful. I think Cuban people are amazing. But for these C tier cities, there's usually a big asterisk for it. Like some reason where it's like, okay, I'd rather choose cities above more than it, right? And so while I think Havana is really really cool, and like culturally, it's it's really cool. Food wise, they have great food. They got great beaches. I mean, there comes with a lot of um, buts when it comes to Cuba, right? Unfortunately, especially right now, they're dealing with really bad blackouts, right? I think they had like some hurricanes last year, and they've been dealing with blackouts since. Um, so yeah, right. Like it's hard to get service when you're in Cuba. You know, you basically have to like negotiate really hard for everything. You have two different currencies. You could pay in these pesos, or you could pay in like U.S. dollars, and you can't even get like a an official rate for anything because the official rate is like way down here, and so you have to like negotiate with anyone, like even if you want to get the currency, right? Um, and also because there's no money in Cuba right now, and they're dealing with embargoes and stuff. The infrastructure is just not as good, right? So they have really old buildings. The sidewalks have tons of like cracks and big bumps and shit like that. And I don't say this to like I understand that they're in a tough situation. Um, but yeah, it makes living or visiting Cuba, um, more difficult than other places, right? Like you have to jump through more hoops, and so that's the big asterisk for Cuba and Havana. I really really like Havana, and I think Cuban people are awesome. Um, but it's just personally for visiting there or for living there, it's just tough, right? Okay, South America. Let's go. So, I guess we're starting in the top left corner with Colombia. So, we already have Santa Marta and Medellin on this list, but I just did a trip with some friends to Colombia for a few weeks. I guess it was 2 or 3 weeks, and visited Bogota for the first time. It's been a long time coming, Bogota. Um, I it's funny, like I had spent 6 months in Medellin a few years ago, like 3 years ago at this point, and I visited Colombia a few different times since then, and the only time I was in Bogota was for a layover. I just never had a reason really to visit Bogota, even though I knew that I wanted to eventually, and I felt like it was a big blind spot in terms of knowing Colombia, because a large chunk of the country lives in Bogota, right? So I really wanted to visit, but so I really wanted to visit. Finally made it there, right? Um, and it's it's kind of in the same boat as Havana, honestly. Wait, one sec. It's above these three. Oh, yes, like this. Okay, yeah, Bogota. Um, yeah, like again, I want to reiterate, I really like Bogota as well. It's kind of the same deal. Like, um, I was actually quite impressed with Bogota. It has great food, right? You got like ajiaco and a bunch of different dishes. You have this like bread. It's like a fried bread that's really common there. I forget the name of it, but anyways, buñuelos, lots of street food and stuff like that. Street performers. You got cool, trendy streets to walk down. Nice fresh weather that people complain is too cold, but I actually really enjoy. and it's a giant city. There's stuff going on out the wazoo, right? You got 7 million people living there. It goes on forever. You can find things going on in like any neighborhood. The nightlife is great as well. When we were there, we ended up going to a nightclub called Teatron, which is the biggest nightclub in all of the Americas. I actually don't remember half the night, but it's really cool. So Bogota has sauce, right? Like it has stuff. That being said, I it's hard for me to recommend Bogota when you have Medellin right there. That's like a 1 hour plane flight away, right? Medellin is warmer. It has more of that like cool, fun chaos, like chaotic element. I think the people are nicer in Medellin as well. Um, you have you just have like more of that, sabor, that flavor, right? In Medellin. And so like I think that is what brings down Bogota in my mind, because it's like for Santa Marta or Tamarindo, it's like okay, if if you want beach, if you want like a nice beach place, go to those places, right? Or Rio. But for Bogota, it's like, why would you spend an elongated time in Bogota when you could do that in Medellin, right there? It's hard to justify in my mind, and I think that's why Bogota is down here. But that doesn't mean that I don't like Bogota. I think that it's a fine city, and I was actually pleasantly surprised because the only people that I talked to about Bogota were from Medellin, and they have a bit of a rivalry. So they were like, "Oh yeah, no, you don't need to go to Bogota. You don't need to go to Bogota." I'm very happy that I went to Bogota, and I would love to go back sometime. Um, but yeah, I mean, when you have Medellin right there, it's hard to spend an extended period there. So yeah. Um, let's move to the upper echelon of the tier list with Salento and the Colombian coffee region. So, Salento. So when I say Salento, Salento is like a small town, kind of in the Colombian coffee region. But I want to say that this ranking is more so for the whole region as a whole. There's a bunch of different little small towns, countryside, and then you have one city called Pereira, which I'm including in this as well. Pereira is really beautiful. It's really calm. But I think where this like region really shines is in the countryside, right? You have one of the safest places in Colombia. You have the best weather in Colombia. You have amazing nature, right? Like everything is able to grow there. You go to like a coffee farm or a cacao farm, and they just throw seeds on the ground, and they just grow into whatever trees they want: papaya, cacao, coffee, any fruit you want, bamboo. It's crazy. To be honest with you, this is probably one of the top two places on this list where I would want to like buy a property here and just live out my days, because it's just that awesome. Like imagine having your own little finca in the coffee region, and you could just have coffee on there. You could have bananas. You could make your own chocolate by harvesting cacao and just like making it yourself. I just think that would be amazing. And I think the small towns are really nice too. Like, first of all, the people are super friendly. You have little cool things to do, like you have pool bars, and regular bars. You got live music, and stuff like that. The architecture is beautiful in these small towns, and then you can get like completely fresh coffee or chocolate or fruit whenever you want. And so, yeah, I think the Colombian coffee region is so underrated. I don't think it's talked about enough when talking about places to visit in Latin America or in Colombia, right? Like everyone talks about Medellin. I find a lot of the time people talk about Santa or Cartagena, but I think Salento and the Colombian coffee region is like a must visit if you go to Colombia. I'll say Salento is probably the place you're gonna want to go, because it's a little bit more touristy, a little bit more polished in terms of the city itself, and then it's close by to this place called um, Valle Cocorna, which is like a big valley with these huge tall wax palm trees. That is they're the tallest palm tree in the world, and it's the only place you can see them. So they are very cool. It's definitely worth visiting. I'm telling you, if you go to the coffee region, you're going to want to settle down there for life. Like it's that gorgeous. But yeah, so that is why it is in A plus, and could even be like up here. Since we're talking about cities, like I mean, these are obviously like better like cities, but again, Salento or anywhere in the coffee region, like, it's probably the number one place on this list where I would want to like settle down long term. So yeah, okay, so that is all for Colombia. What do we have next that we're gonna be doing? Lima. And Lima, where did I put Lima on this list? Okay, yeah. Lima is right where it should be. Again, man, Lima is kind of the same as Bogota and Havana, where it's like I actually like Lima more than I thought I would. Um, like everyone was saying, oh, you don't need to go to Lima, just go to Cusco and the Sacred Valley when you're in Peru. But I thought Lima was beautiful. I stayed in a neighborhood called, I think it was called Miraflores. And we also went to one called Barranco. We rented bicycles and rode down the coast, right? I was there with my mom, by the way. And it's beautiful. You have gorgeous sunsets in Lima. You have a really long coastline where you can go to the beach whenever. Yes, the water is pretty cold, but like you see families going to the beach. To be able to have a capital city like that, where there's like lots of hustle bustle and things to do, and then you can go to the beach whenever you want, right next to the city. Like that's amazing. It's also really cheap as well. It's Peru overall is very inexpensive, and the food is quite good. It's not my favorite food. I think it's a little bit overrated, to be honest, because I think that people rank Peruvian food really high, and I like it, but it's not my favorite. So yeah, but there's a lot of variety and stuff like that. It's a cool culture there in Lima. It's a cool mix of you have like obviously more colonial influence in Lima than you have in places like Cusco. But you still have that indigenous influence as well, so I think it's a cool mix there. That being said, again, it's one of those things where like it's hard to recommend to go to Lima over somewhere like Rio, or over somewhere like Quito, or over somewhere like Medellin, right? If you really want like a coastal city, go to Rio instead. If you really want just like a cool, like solid Latin American city, go to Quito, right? If you want something more fun, go to Medellin. It's hard to think of where Lima excels within those cities, right? Like while it has stuff, and I could see why someone would live there, right? For me personally, like if I was gonna recommend anything to anyone, it would be Quito or Rio or Medellin over Lima if I was thinking that Lima would be kind of a good fit for them, right? So for that, I can't really put it any higher than C, although I think it's cool, and I think it has a solid amount of stuff to do, and obviously has the coast as well. So it's definitely above somewhere like San Jose, right? Like it's cheaper. Like this is the big distinction between the tiers, right? Like where this, I don't know why I would really ever recommend someone to be there. But like Lima compared to San Jose, for example, because Lima's going to be the bottom of this tier. Lima's cheaper. It has better food. and it has coastline, and it has more things to do in the city. So there's a big jump between C and D, for sure, right? Let's stick. Let's stay in Peru for a sec, and um, let's go with Cusco. Cusco is gonna be right here. I was expecting way more from Cusco, and I know some people that really like Cusco, and I need to ask them sometime, like more about like why they like Cusco. I guess I could see it. Like I can see what Cusco is trying to sell as a thing. Like you have the kind of very strong indigenous Inca aspect, right? Within the city itself, you have cool food, right? Like it's unique in that sense. In like the city square and surrounding area, the streets are really cool. And then also you have the Sacred Valley right there. Like Cusco is usually where people land before they go to the Sacred Valley to go do Machu Picchu and Rainbow Mountain and stuff like that, right? So, um, I guess people have good memories of Cusco for that reason because then you go on to hike Machu Picchu and stuff like that. So it's like, oh man, that experience was awesome. And I think the Sacred Valley is really beautiful. I think that you can definitely have a not only a good but like a transformative experience in the Sacred Valley. Cusco itself, I think, is just not good. um, like Cusco, it's okay. So you got the square in the middle of Cusco where you just have people like trying to sell you things. They're trying to sell you pictures with llamas, and trying to sell you all their like little souvenirs and stuff like that. Um, and that's kind of like the only interactions you have with locals in Cusco, to be honest. Um, I went to a couple nice like restaurants there, but outside of the initial square, the city is really run down. Like there's not really nice places outside of the square in Cusco. And so it effectively makes the city very small, right? Because outside of that main square area, um, it's you don't really want to go. Like there's no reason to go. And I want to preface that I'd only spent like a week in Cusco overall, and I had a very bad personal experience because I had very bad elevation sickness when I was there. Although I think that is an aspect for me that puts it lower. Like even being there after a week, like I still didn't feel completely normal with my breathing and stuff. And so that I mean that's a huge aspect for me as well. Being that high of elevation, it makes it really easy to burn from the sun as well, and it makes it quite chilly, right? So for all those reasons, first of all, like Cusco is not like it doesn't really offer anything to me, and then also I just don't feel good when I'm there as well. So for that reason, it's definitely in this bottom tier. I was expecting a lot more from Cusco, to be honest. Um, Also in this same tier, I'm gonna put Arequipa, but it's gonna be right above Cusco. So we're gonna put all these places above, right? Not many people talk about Arequipa. It's the third largest city in Peru, I think. Um, and I was actually pleasantly surprised by it. Like I wasn't really expecting much. I just went there with my mom, for a few days um, because we were planning on going to this valley. I forget what the name is, but like to see condors. And Arequipa's cute. Like it's fine. It in the city center itself, I personally like it more than Cusco. The elevation is lower, so you feel better. And there's about the same in terms of stuff to do. It also suffers from the issue where the surrounding area of the city is very rundown, right? Um, and so it it gives you this weird feeling. Both these places give you this weird feeling where it's like, okay, you're being protected by this by the reality of the city, right? Um, and that sucks. Like it's definitely better to be in a city where you can explore a bunch of different areas and not feel like, oh shit, like I'm very very fortunate to be in this one little part of the city that I'm like fortunate enough to pay for, right? Um, so yeah, I think that's the problem with Peru overall. I really still like Peru. I think again the food is very good and very different from other South American cuisine. It's really cheap, which is nice, and then also like the nature in like the Sacred Valley and other mountain regions is really really beautiful. Like there's really nothing that compares to it, right? So for that reason, um, oh, and also the indigenous culture and stuff like that is really cool, and nothing compares to that specific Incan culture, right? And so for those reasons, I still think that Peru is worth going to overall. It's just in terms of like those cities, um, I just don't really like. I wouldn't really want to go back. I didn't have a good time there, and so I think in terms of like visiting Peru, definitely the bigger draw is out in the country and out in the nature, right? All right, I just took a bit of a break to refill my water, grab a coffee, and fix my hair. So we got three countries left that we got cities from. After doing Peru, we got Chile, Brazil, and Argentina. I know if we were going completely north to south, Brazil would be next, but Brazil's actually going to be a pretty long section because I got a lot of thoughts on Brazil, and we have five different locations in Brazil to talk about. So if you'll entertain me, I'm going to go to Chile and then Argentina, and then we're going to end in Brazil. So Chile is next. So we already got Santiago and Valparaiso on here, and La Serena. I actually visited La Serena before I made the past video a couple years ago. I just didn't list it. I don't know why. I guess I just didn't really think it was notable enough. But I wanted to add La Serena kind of as a shout out to northern Chile overall, and basically areas that are not Santiago, right? Because I think Santiago is, while it's a big city and it has a lot of stuff to do, it's a little bit underwhelming in terms of like culture and vibe, especially if you go from somewhere like Buenos Aires to Santiago. For me, it's like, why would you stay in Santiago? There's just way less going on. It's a lot more quiet, right? But I do want to say that Chile overall really excels when you leave the cities and you get out in the nature. I think it has some of the most varied and beautiful nature in the world, in terms of one country, right? Like you go all the way to the south and you got those cool, beautiful archipelagos. You get mountains down there. You got mountains all along the east border with the Andes. You have the longest coastline in the world. And then in La Serena, which is about 6 hours north of Santiago, you get the coastline right there, which is beautiful, right? The water's pretty cold, but it is beautiful coastline, right? You get cute towns, right? La Serena is it's not the biggest city, but it still has like stuff to do, right? And I could totally see why someone would want to live there. Um, and then you have like beautiful nature in the form of deserts, right? You have at the oh man, I forget the name of this desert. It's like at the Atacamba or something like that. It's a huge desert in the north of Chile. I'll put the correct name on the screen, but um, yeah, like these deserts are crazy beautiful. Um, they're super dry, don't have much rain, and so that brings in really unique nature and biodiversity, and it also makes it one of the best places in the world for like seeing stars, right? Um, and yeah, it's just a really really unique place. And while I don't usually recommend Santiago to someone, especially if they're only spending a few months in Latin America overall, I don't really think you need to go there. Somewhere like the north in La Serena or in those deserts is something definitely worth going to. It's it's beautiful, right? And so I just wanted to use La Serena as an opportunity to shout out that part of Chile because it's really gorgeous, and I want to recommend it to people, right? The last place in Chile is a funny one. It's called Pucon, and where am I gonna put this? I think we're gonna put it right here. Pucon is a very interesting place. So it's a small town, right? Um, that's a few hours away from Bariloche. Basically, when I was in Bariloche with a couple friends, one friend and I, we rented a car and then we drove to Pucon, like across the border. And the drive is gorgeous. It's probably the most beautiful drive that I've ever done in my life. You're driving through the Andes Mountains. You got desert. You got everything. It's really beautiful. Pucon itself is a small town that has a couple close volcanoes nearby. There's one volcano that's actually active and kind of erupts and stuff. And then you have a beautiful kind of little harbor as well in Pucon. So if you're down in that area and you want to check out like a really cool, cute like town that has coast and it has a cool kind of like hippie vibe, then Pucon is really cool. I had a very unique experience in Pucon myself. I'm not gonna say exactly why, because I think it'll make me less employable. But anyways, my friend and I were not in like we weren't sober, basically, but it was very interesting. Um, it was a really good time. It's a very unique place. All the beaches there have like volcanic ash as well, and yeah, it's really cool. Again, I want to reiterate, C tier is still a very cool place. That I would say that you should go to, right? So, speaking of Bariloche, which is the place where we started that road trip, Bariloche is going in B tier. I was actually expecting a little bit more from Bariloche because, obviously this is coming after 3 different stints in Buenos Aires at this point, and everyone in Buenos Aires really speaks highly of Bariloche, right? And I mean, like I already said, like I like C tier, so obviously I really like places in B tier, right? And so that's just it. I really liked it. Like I think the nature is gorgeous. They have all these cool lakes. When we were there, we went on a boat ride with this guy. Ended up taking to a boat to this like old nuclear plant from World War II. I think that was opened by like some Nazis. And yeah, like it was beautiful. The nature overall is gorgeous. Drive like if you rent a car and you drive through Patagonia, it's a really really cool time, and I would definitely recommend it. That being said, I think it was a little bit disappointing for me because it's very similar to BC, right? I grew up in British Columbia in Canada, and the nature in British Columbia is quite similar to the nature in Bariloche. So it's I guess I'm just more accustomed to it. Like it's more like, oh yeah, okay, this is beautiful, but like it's just like home, right? Um, Things being less novel definitely make them less, I guess, jaw dropping, right? But that doesn't mean that Bariloche is not really beautiful or anything like that. It just reminded me of home. Even the town itself, there's not much there in the town. It's just kind of, it almost reminds me of like a ski town, right? It kind of reminds me of Whistler, to be honest, but just like a smaller Whistler, with a little bit less going on. Um, but it's cool. The people are really nice there. It's obviously cold because it's quite south. Even we were there in like the end of the summer, and it was already cold there, right? Um, but but yeah, it's beautiful. If you're gonna be in Argentina for an extended period, I would definitely recommend going down to Bariloche at some point. Uh, right? Somewhere that I really want to go to next is all the way down to the southern tip in Ushuaia. I hope to go there in the next couple years. Next time I go to Argentina, because I've heard like really amazing things about it. Um, but yes, Bariloche definitely somewhere where you want to go. All right, I guess we're in Brazil time. Brazil. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to leave Brazil for last is, I mean, it's a big section, and also Brazil is kind of in its own lane in South America, right? You have the rest of the countries, and then you have Brazil. And it's not just because they speak a different language, they were a Portuguese colony instead of a Spanish colony. I mean, I think that plays a part, but it's so distinct culturally, than the rest of Latin America. They don't really listen to like reggaeton, for example. They have all their own styles of music, right? Like samba and sertaneja and funky, and then they have completely different food as well, right? Like you have things that are common across the rest of Latin America, like empanadas, for example. Brazil has tapioca. Brazil has coxinhas. Brazil has all these different stews and stuff like that. And so these are just examples of ways that Brazil is a lot different than the rest of South America. And it's really kind of hard to compare. Like you like what Brazil is serving or you don't, right? For me, I actually didn't like it as much at first. Even though I put Rio up here, or I guess I put it at the bottom of A in my initial list, I was a little bit disappointed with Rio, to be honest. This was right after coming from Argentina for a month, and I mean, I obviously like really liked Argentina, and Rio was disappointing for a couple different reasons. I guess in my mind because it wasn't Argentina, right? That being said, Rio after going back is a bit higher, for me in its own right. Like yes, it's one of the sketchiest places on this list. Like you definitely have to be careful in Rio. I know a bunch of people who've lost their phones and been pickpocketed in Rio, right? I know people who've been scopomined, in Rio and like had all their stuff stolen, right? Um, but again, like I said in the intro, like Rio has this je ne sais quoi that's unquantifiable, right? The fact that like you got like Copacabana and Ipanema, and the fact that like these beaches, they have their own whole ecosystem, and it's not really something that you can compare to any other like beach town or city overall. You got just these giant beaches and chaos and people selling things and people playing volleyball and football um it's just its own city right there on the beach. And just for that alone, I think Rio should be like up in this section. But then you also got really cool cultural stuff. You got amazing live music, right? You have different parts of the city that are really cool culturally, awesome architecture, events out the wazoo. Um, and then you also, on top of all of that city stuff, you get nature with Rio. Nature that's actually much better than somewhere like Buenos Aires, right? You get obviously the places like Sugarloaf Mountain, right? That are very prominent in the city. But if you go even a little bit farther, you got really amazing hikes that you can do and stuff like that. So yes, Rio is not perfect, but for those magical elements that are in Rio, like I can't put it any lower than this because I think that yes, while it's not perfect, like you need to experience it, right? So yeah. Also, some flaws that I thought about with Rio are apparent in kind of all of Brazil, and so that made me think a little bit differently about Rio as well. And we'll get into that in a little bit, but um, I guess we'll start with Sao Paulo. Um, yeah, we're actually gonna. Oh, we're actually gonna put Sao Paulo all the way at the top here. So, Sao Paulo, top of C tier. I sound like a broken record at this point, but it's kind of the same deal as Bogota, Havana, and Lima. It is like the biggest city in a country. I'm not going to say capital because we'll get into there in a sec. Um, but it's the biggest city in a country that kind of like I really like. Like I've spent a couple weeks in Sao Paulo, accumulatively, and I think it's really cool. There's events everywhere. There's cool streets. Like they have that one street that I forget the name of that they close down on Sundays, and they have a bunch of businesses. They have people walking. They have street vendors, all this kind of stuff. You have really cool nightlife in different parts of the city as well, right? But it's in the same boat as Bogota, where like with Bogota, why would you spend extended periods in Bogota when you could be in Medellin? And Sao Paulo is the same way. Why would you spend extended periods of time in Sao Paulo when you could be in Rio? And it's not even that far away. It's like 5 hours away, right? So that's the big asterisk for me when it comes to Sao Paulo. I don't know. Like, yes, you should visit for sure, but why would you continue to stay there? If not for like job reasons or stuff like that, um, when you could be in Rio. So yeah, um, I mean, it's on the top of C tier. It's above Bogota. It's above Havana. So I really like Sao Paulo, and I think it's very promising. Um, but again, yeah, like I can't think of necessarily a reason to choose it over somewhere that's close by that I think is much better, right? Um, and getting into kind of similarities and stuff you see in all of Brazil, Sao Paulo as well is quite sketchy, like in Rio, right? And this is a common theme in Brazil in the big cities. Like it's hard to find a big city in Brazil that feels safe. um, like and and I know people might think that about all of Latin America, but I'm telling you that Brazil is like another level of danger for sure. You definitely have to watch out in Brazil. There's a lot more streets in Brazil in the big cities that are just like completely dead, and you're like, "Oh shit, I need to walk fast on the street because I don't want to be out here for a long period," right? Um, and Yeah, I've definitely had those moments in Sao Paulo. Um, so that's kind of another reason why it's I mean that's kind of a testament to how much I like other aspects that like it has that big danger, but I still put it above a place like Bogota, right? That I also like. So yeah. Um let's let's get into the capital. let's go Brasilia. In Brasilia, we're gonna put. Sorry, Brasilia. I'm sorry. How many things are we gonna put about Brasilia? No, sorry. Brazil's the bottom. Okay. All right, now we just messed up the order, but it's fine. Ah, man. Dang. Okay, well, let's try that again. Okay, Arequipa is lower than it should be, but Brasilia right here. Kind of upper half of the D tier. Brasilia is a very, very strange city. And you, for anyone who's been to Brasilia, you know exactly what I mean. Some people like it. Like a lot of people in Brasilia who live there, who I've talked to, like they love Brasilia and they would rather live there than anywhere else, at least in Brazil, right? And that's fair. Like, it's a much safer city than the other big cities in Brazil, like Rio and Sao Paulo, right? Um, and it's just like if you just kind of want a more, I guess, North American style life where you drive to your mall, you drive to your grocery store and get your stuff, and then you go back home, and you're just kind of like living a chill life. There's a lot of parks in the city that you can go to and enjoy, right? There's a park I used to go to like every week that like it has like this cool natural pool. It has trails. It has monkeys hanging out in the trees and stuff like that. And so it's not like Brasilia has nothing per se. Like I can see the vision in terms of the lifestyle there, right? But let me just walk through like what Brasilia is, right? It's a planned city. It was made in the 60s, and it was made in the time where they thought that cars were going to be like the future of transportation and stuff. And so you really can't survive in the city without a car, right? Fortunately, I had access to a car when I was there, and I've actually spent a lot of time in Brasilia. I've spent like 6 months there, and so I feel like I have given the city like a proper shake, like a fair shake. I just like I went there with my partner at the time, and she had like her whole family there, and like kind of a friend network already established and stuff. But I can't imagine how how tough it would be going to Brasilia, not knowing anybody or not having access to a car. I think those two things would make Brasilia like pretty unlivable, because I don't even know how you would really start with like meeting people and connecting with people. Everyone in the city drives like from point A to point B, and so you don't really have much, like, I guess, of this like these public spaces where you can even begin to like form a friendship circle or anything like that. I think Brasilia has some cool events, especially being the capital of Brazil. There were a couple art events that I went to when I was there. I used to go to a photography club, and also, like I said already, like there's some cool like parks. There's a man-made lake next to the city as well, which I think is pretty cool. But it has such a weird dystopian vibe. Yeah, and again, like I don't want to make this sound like I was like ungrateful for the time I spent in Brazil or in Brasilia or anything like that. I just, like, in good conscience, if I would like I can't recommend it to somebody, especially if you don't know anyone there, if you don't have access to a vehicle. Like, I think if you don't have access to a vehicle, it goes like on the bottom here because it would be so tough, right? Um, that being said, like I said, like going to the events and stuff like that, I have had some good times in Brasilia. Um, it's just it's completely different than the rest of Latin America, and yeah, it's down here. But let's move on and change the tone a little bit to somewhere that's much higher. Salvador. And I'll actually put it above Mexico City as well. Salvador. Salva freaking do. Um, a lot of people, I think, despite this being the third largest city in Brazil, it still gets slept on a lot. I think a lot of people internationally, they know Rio, they know Sao Paulo. But a lot of people, when I say that I went to Salvador, they're like, oh, El Salvador, right? And that's fair. Um, because I guess, El Salvador is its own country and stuff. But Salvador, Bahia, in the northeastern part of Brazil, is amazing. I thought I would like it before going because, it's like, it's this beach city. It's where like Carnival in Brazil really originated and all the traditions there and stuff. So it's got a lot of culture. It's got this cool mix of colonial influence, African influence, and also indigenous influence. And so like I thought I would like it, but it really blew my expectations out of the water. Salvador is awesome. It has so many really, really cool events. Everybody there is like really into like arts and music and culture, and so you can find live music wherever you want. You can find like art events wherever you want. The city itself is buzzing and just brimming with stuff to see at every corner. The city center almost feels like Buenos Aires, but like if Buenos Aires was like experienced an apocalypse and it had like overgrown vines on the buildings and stuff like that. It's really, really cool. And then you have this whole like colonial part of the city as well that has like cool architecture in its own right. You have really beautiful beaches in northeastern Brazil, both in Bahia and outside of Bahia that you can go to as well. Or sorry, both in Salvador and outside of Salvador as well, that you can go to. So yeah, Salvador. I don't really think I need to say much more. I mean, you got beautiful beaches, you got awesome culture. I didn't even mention that northeastern Brazil has the best food in all of Brazil as well. It's where moqueca's from. It's got this really cool African influence, and so you got like these huge curries with all these different sides and stuff like that. Salvador is just, yeah. I don't really need to say much more than that. You got really cool, unique culture. You got beautiful beaches, and you got really nice, lovely, lively people, right? And so I'm sure just from that you can totally see why it's up here. Big caveat with Salvador: it's one of the most dangerous cities in the world, so you got to definitely be careful with that. It's heavily policed, and so I guess that effectively makes certain neighborhoods a lot safer than others, right? But that being said, like the homicide rate is very high in Salvador, and so you do have to be careful about what streets and what neighborhoods you go to and stuff like that. But I think that's a testament to how nice Salvador is that I put it up here despite that one big asterisk, right? I even put it above Mexico City, which I rank very highly, because while Mexico City has lots of sauce, like in lots of events and stuff like that, I just lean more towards the kind of coolness that Salvador has over Mexico City. So, yeah. All right, we're at the home stretch. I'm just gonna put Palmas down here. I'll put Cancun above Palmas, but you probably don't know Palmas, but it's in like the center of the country. It's another planned city that was made in, I guess, the 60s or 70s as well. And I mean, if you know Palmas, you'll know why it's down here. It's like 40 degrees Celsius all the time. It's incredibly hot, but not next to the beach. They have like a man-made river there, but you can't even swim in it because there's piranhas. It's a very conservative town. I don't think any more needs to be said about Palmas. You don't need to visit. Yes. Moving on back to Northeast Brazil, we got João Pessoa, the best city you've never heard about. Wait, we're gonna put João Pessoa. Actually, are we gonna put it third? Yes, we are gonna put it third. João Pessoa. Oh my god. Cool. So, João Pessoa is this city in northeastern Brazil. It's like a 15-hour drive or 12-hour drive north from Salvador. And I actually spent a month there with my partner at the time. It's right next to the beach. And like I said, it's the best city you've never heard about. It's not like the most exciting city with things to do, like a Buenos Aires or like a Medellin or even like a Rio, right? But it has such like this homey vibe to it that I just adore it. It's, along with Salento, one of the top two places that I could easily see myself settling down in long term. Like, you have beautiful, beautiful coastline right there in Northeast Brazil with like mild temperature water. You get amazing surfing right there. And then you get a beautiful city on top of that as well, right there. João Pessoa is one of the safest places in the northeast of Brazil. It still has some aspects of that Salvador culture, with like amazing food and, you know, live music and stuff like that, but on a little bit smaller scale. And yeah, it's just awesome. It's even easier than Salvador to, I think because it's a smaller city, to go out and experience the nature really easily. You have like amazing parks and trails that you can go to. So yeah, I don't really think I need to say much more about João Pessoa. Definitely look into it, especially if you're checking out like Brazil or northeastern Brazil specifically. I almost don't want to put it on this list because I don't want more, like, I want it to be kind of like my little secret, João Pessoa. It's that cool, and I would love, love, love to like have a place in João Pessoa one day. I feel like it would feel like my little town because it's like, it's not really frequented by tourists, even by Brazilian tourists. Like it's pretty relatively unknown, but you could have a place right next to the beach in João Pessoa. You walk to the beach. There's this amazing culture there. You got like food vendors and stuff like that, like in Rio, but on a little bit smaller scale. You got people playing paddle right on the water. You got surfing right there. It's a little slice of paradise. And I feel very fortunate to have gotten to know it because it's just, yeah. Yeah. So that's all the places I wanted to list. Some thoughts before I conclude here, I guess, some conclusions that we can make about the list. So Buenos Aires is still number one. Yes, Buenos Aires is still number one. I think like a year ago, I made a video complaining about a couple things in Buenos Aires, and I probably shouldn't have, or the way my tone in the video wasn't really accurate to how I feel about Buenos Aires and how I've always felt. I was just complaining about certain things about the city that I feel like that just bug me, but that doesn't mean that I don't love Buenos Aires. On the contrary, it is still my favorite city in the world, right? There's a lot more in this A+ tier than before, right? Before we only had Medellin. Now we have João Pessoa, beautiful beaches. Salento, amazing, amazing coffee region in Colombia. You got Salvador with its really cool, unique culture, and Mexico City, again, with its really cool, unique culture, right? So it's not like there aren't cities that, for me, that like aren't in the same tier. There are cities that are in the same tier as Buenos Aires, but Buenos Aires is still, I think, the best out of all of them. Like, there's tons of stuff to do, events and stuff like that. Unique, super unique culture in Buenos Aires, compared to anywhere, right? But you might say like other places like Salvador and Mexico City have unique culture as well. Yes, but Buenos Aires has this magic where it's so easy to like meet people and like have a social circle and have a good time in Buenos Aires. You don't even have to try. In other places, like for example in like Mexico City or in João Pessoa, you do still have to kind of try to meet people. In Buenos Aires, you walk out your door and you'll meet cool people. And so for that magic alone, it needs to be number one. Like for other aspects of the city, it already qualifies to be in this A+ tier, but because of that magic of like connecting with people, it needs to be number one, right? Medellin is just as good as I remember. I actually I hadn't been to Medellin in a couple years. And actually that's a lie. I went last year for a couple days, and then I went this year for like a week. And before doing that, I thought like, maybe it's slid down a little bit in terms of like with all these other cities. But no, it's just as good as I remember. It's still awesome. And Santa Marta is even better than I remember. Even though it's in the same tier, it is on the top of this B tier. Santa Marta is, I love it. I was thinking that Santa Marta would go lower as well, actually, because like I've talked to a lot of people about the Caribbean coast since going there like 3 years ago, and a lot of people are like, oh no, either I like Cartagena the best, or I didn't really like Santa Marta. There wasn't much to do there, but I just went back for like a week, and it's just as good as I remember. The beaches are amazing. You have the best national park in all of South America in Parque Tayrona with amazing, amazing beaches. And you just have a cool vibe. You got a cool, like, homey, laid back vibe. It doesn't really feel touristy at all, right? Yes, Santa Marta is not the biggest city with stuff to do. Yes, it's a little, I guess, seedy or dirty in some aspects. But for me, I'd much rather have a beach town that feels very homey. And that's why João Pessoa is all the way up here, compared to somewhere like Cancun or like, I don't know, Panama City or something like that. So that's just my preference. But yes, Santa Marta is still great. For those, I guess, kind of negatives that I mentioned, I can't in good conscience put it in A tier, even though I want to, because if you compare it to, I mean, A tier already has a beach town, right? And that's Rio. And it's just not Rio. It's not the same as Rio, but I can put it solidly at the top of B tier, right? And I guess the conclusion from that is Colombia is amazing, right? I already knew this 3 years ago. Colombia was the first place in South America that I had been, but it just reaffirmed that 3 years later that Colombia is just that country, Yeah. Costa Rica was, I'll say, in terms of the country itself, it's a little bit underwhelming, or like less than I expected it to be, just because it's like you hear really, really good things about Costa Rica overall. I think they have a great PR team, and I think there are cool things in the country, like the beach towns like Tamarindo and Puerto Viejo, but it is very expensive. I don't think the food is that good, and I think there are much better alternatives for places, right? I think a lot of the the nice spots or the nature in Costa Rica is very controlled. Like you have it all kind of like structured out. You have like infrastructure put in, and they charge for it, right? Whereas other places like in Colombia, you get a lot more like nice free nature that you can go to, right? So for that reason, Costa Rica was a little bit underwhelming, even though I have honestly amazing memories there, right? Brazil has the highest highs, João Pessoa, Salvador, Rio, and also pretty low lows, right? Like you have Brasilia, you have Palmas, which is down here as well. Um, yeah, like I was talking about at the beginning of the Brazil section, Brazil is really just it's just different than everywhere else, and it really um like it you can either love Brazil or you can really dislike Brazil, um, based on how you feel about who they are. Brazil's not going to change, right? There's a lot of frustrating things about Brazil. Like for example, um, to live there, there's a lot more hoops that you have to jump through, right? Um, the service experience as a foreigner, like dealing with either getting phone plans or any sort of stuff like that, it can be really like frustrating. Um, and so I can understand why if someone said like they don't really like Brazil or they like other countries more, right? I still think Brazil is really really cool for what they are, and especially if you get past those things, Brazil can offer you experiences that no other country can offer you, right? Like Carnival in Rio, like Salvador or João Pessoa, like the Northeast region as a whole. So I I I I still love Brazil, for what it is, but yeah, it's definitely frustrating in some aspects as well. If there's one country I could explore more, it would definitely be Mexico. Not just going back to Mexico City, but I would love to go to Guadalajara. I'd love to go to Oaxaca and Chiapas, and yeah, like I just feel like there's so much more to explore in Mexico. I feel like I could be exploring there for years and still feel that way. But yeah, I think I've only spent a month accumulatively in Mexico, so it's definitely somewhere I would love, love, love to spend more time in and explore. Top locations, like I said, that I would want to live in long term are Colombian coffee region, and in northeastern Brazil, in somewhere like João Pessoa, right? Even though Buenos Aires and Medellin are above those places, on this list, like it's it can be easy to get drained from somewhere like Buenos Aires or Medellin. It happened to me in Medellin after like 6 months there. Um, it still was a very fun place, but at the same time, like you hear your neighbors playing music super loud every night. Like it can just be draining after a while, and I don't feel like places like João Pessoa or Salento would feel that way. So if you're thinking about somewhere in terms of like a little bit longer term, I would recommend places like that. João Pessoa if you like the beach, or the coffee region if you just if you just love beautiful nature and fresh fruit and coffee and stuff like that. So yeah, um, that's pretty much all I got right now. Um, like I said, I probably won't be in South America for the next couple of years because I'm going to be in Asia, and then I'm going to be doing a teaching course in Canada. And so this is kind of my goodbye for now. I like, despite ranking some of these places low, it's just because I'm trying to quantify them for me, and give recommendations for other people. I love Latin America and Latinos overall. It's honestly become a really big part of me, um, and my life over the last 3 years. And I know that I'm going to be down there for an extended period of time in the future. I would honestly love to be down there like long term eventually, but for now, it's a goodbye. And I hope this video was able to help you, um, if you're looking at visiting any of these places, or if you're just curious about the region overall. I would definitely recommend, definitely recommend going. There's so much to see and so much variety in South America that I feel like is not talked about enough. I think when you think about Latin America, you think about like chaotic cities, right? Maybe beaches, but there's just so much more in between to see, and I really hope that you're able to experience it too, because I feel very fortunate that I was able to. So, yeah, that's all for me. Yeah, bye.